Good evening, everyone. Welcome to session 2. Let's wait for a couple of minutes and we'll get started. Okay, let other folks also join. Hope you all can hear my voice, right? Okay. Okay, we can get started. So good evening, everyone. Again, hope actually you all come back with the second session. Would like to hear more from AWS resource today, and we are going to talk a lot about key resources and lab exercise as well. Okay. So before we get started for today, do you have any clarification questions, anything on the last session, what we had discussed, or general question, anything if you have? If you have anything, please chat with me or you can actually tell me. Okay, if no more question, let me share my screen. Okay, so today's session, uh, for today's session, we are going to talk about the key resources, right? Yesterday, I was showing to you what are the key resources for your AWS development. We'll be going through today. And first topic is VPC. Next topic would be VPC peering. These two will come as part of networking. Next one is computing. When it say computing means EC2 and Lambda, right? These two only very critical resource. Sorry. So we would like to talk lot more about these two resources and example also, okay, in lab exercise. And the last one, storage. When you say to storage means S3 and Glacier is there, so these two are very important. And the last one for today's topic, today's session is cloud formation script. Okay, so this is example of PaaS, right? Platform as a service. Yesterday we have seen. So today I'm going to show you how you can create a cloud formation sample one, and how you can apply using the cloud formation script. Okay. So before I'm jumping to this, right? Let me, like I said yesterday, I actually don't have that own account, right? So I had that. Today I have this. So I'm going to show you quickly on that how you can set up alarm, right? So let's say you created an account and you are able to log in using your credential and you want to monitor, right? So you can set the bill alarm. Let's say if amount of dollars, right, reach certain this amount, then please ping me or please notify me. Okay, something like that you can set. So I'm going to show you now. So before that, I want to quickly check, is anyone created a free account, AWS account? Did you get chance to create? Anybody? Wow, cool. I could see many people. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, good job. So far all you have, I can assume that all you have account, right? Because going forward, whatever we are going to do, right, everything using that account only. So you should have created. Those who don't have created, right, please try to create, okay, because you will definitely need that account. Without that account you cannot actually do any development with respect to AWS. So take your time, it will not take much time, right? So maybe hardly 5 minutes to create an account, very easy, and it's very straightforward. So let me log into this account. AWS free account. It's the same URL, right? I went and sign in. So here you see here root user is there. Let me give my email address. Password. Yeah, Prabhakar. Actually, they shouldn't ask anything. If they ask also, it will be refunded. Okay. So basically, you will pay $0. You will not pay any of the dollars. So it will be completely free. Okay, come back to this. See, I'm successfully logged, right? If you look at my account, you see here account is there. This is my account number. Okay, so this will be the unique ID. So whoever created account, right? So once you log into this AWS console, you should be able to see that account ID. Then billing dashboard. Yesterday I was showing, right? So this will be there. And beside that, you will find these regions. Yesterday we have talked, right? So what is a region and how regions are actually categorized across the world and all. So you see here 4 regions I was telling, right, about that. If you take US United States, 4 regions by default. North Virginia, so US, the code is US East 1, right? Another one is Oregon, which is US West 2. So 4 regions would be there. And the Asia Pacific, you see here there are many regions. India, there is only one region. If you look at this, Mumbai, as I said. So likewise, there will be many regions, right, across the world. So 25 regions we told, right, we have seen. So if you look at these, around 25 regions should be there here. So you can choose any one of the region. Okay. So I would always encourage to choose this North Virginia. This is the default one. All services will be available in North Virginia. Okay. You don't need to worry about it. So that's why I highly encourage to use this North Virginia only. Unless if you want to explore some other region, right? Then you click on this. Let's say Singapore, if you are residing, then you can use, otherwise Mumbai. You can use that Mumbai region. Okay. Then you click on this service. Here you can find all of the services available in Mumbai region, which means, okay. So I'm going to switch over North Virginia, which is a US based one, default one. So most of the, not most, 100% all service will be available here. Okay. So now this is a search box. You can actually search CloudWatch, right? Because yesterday I couldn't show because the permission issue, right? So today I'm showing quickly. So CloudWatch is here. Once you click on CloudWatch, you see here alarms. So here billing is there. Click on billing in the left hand side and you see here create alarm. So create alarm. You see here metric name, estimation, estimated charges, currency USD, maximum, period, static, greater than, let's say here I'm giving $10. You don't need to do anything. Here is the condition. What I'm telling, actually what I'm giving the instruction, greater than should be $10, 10 USD. Click on next. So in alarm only, right? There are many triggers, but we are actually setting alarm only. So for that, you have to subscribe. How you can subscribe? By using that SNS topic here. So click on create new topic. Just here say, you can say some topic name, right? My billing track. Okay, something like that. Here you can say email address. Say my email address I'm giving. Create topic. Click on create topic. So this is how you can subscribe. See here, I subscribe with my email address. And next. Alarm name. So my, you can say some my billing alarm. So please create you also same thing, whatever the steps I am doing, right? You can follow the same thing. But this is very much useful, guys. As I said, right? Unknowingly or accidentally, if you try to create resource which is not applicable to free tier, right? Then they will really put lot of charges. So that time this will help actually. So you can actually alert and you can actually react accordingly. So I create alarm. You see here one action is enabled. You see here I subscribe. I need to confirm. But this is the email I subscribe. Yeah, my subscription confirmed. You see here Amazon Web Service confirmed my subscription. Go back and just to refresh. See here now there is no warning. Okay. So this is how you can subscribe. You see here estimated charges greater than $10, then you will get one notification. So which means whenever you are seeing here, right, your billing dashboard, you see at $0. Let's say somehow it become $10 or above $10. The moment it reaches $10, you will get a notification so that you can go and see, okay, what's the resource and do you really use them or accidentally you used, so that you can immediately remove. Go proactively, you can take action, right, yourself. That is how you can set. Okay. Any questions? So likewise, you can set your alarm. Click right. So if you click, this will show an action we reach. These are all details it will show the configuration. Yeah. You can set C. For example, I'm giving $10, right? You can do anything, Jay, actually. Yeah. So alarm. No, could you repeat again? Means you want me to repeat all steps? Is it Anurag? Sai Anurag. Yeah, but please try to see, because otherwise, right, that running out of time. I cannot actually every time repeat the steps. There are a lot of things I need to go through. Okay, please pay attention, and I cannot repeat every time. Hope you understood, I think. Yeah. Hi, sir. I'm creating new AWS account. There are two options about how do you want to use. One is personal, your own project. Second is business or school. No, personal. Choose personal, Kiran. Okay. Don't use a business one. Use a personal one. Yeah. So, Sai, I just to quickly go through that. So, first you need to search CloudWatch. Okay. Once you search CloudWatch, then click on these billings. You see here billings. So, I delete. Okay. See here. Once you click on alarm, right? Create alarm. Everything will be there. Here, right? $5 you are saying. You can set it $5. So greater than $5, you can set it like $1 to how much ever you want. It must be a number, right? Any number basically. Okay, do this and do next. And here create a topic. So here you can give any name, topic name, and here your email address and create a topic. That's all. Okay, once you create a topic, right, you will get notification something like that. Then click on confirm subscription. So that you will get a confirm something like this. Okay, once this is done, right, then you should go to create an alarm. Then click on next, then create a alarm name and done. That's all. Okay, all clear, right? This one, it's very simple. You can set it yourself. Okay, next one, I would IAM, right? Yesterday I was showing that IAM role. This is another important one. We'll show you quickly. So you see here groups. I was telling this group, and you see here I have a finance group and sales group here. Like that, you can just create a group and you will get it. Users here you can see, right? Users Alan and Michael, and if you click Alan, right? Just I create a group. So Alan comes under which group? You can see, click on group, and Alan is part of sales group. Okay, you can see like that. If you want to detach from sales group, right, then here it's remove is there. You can click remove. It will automatically Alan will get removed from this group. Okay, then if you go to user, right? So now Alan is not particular any group. See, Michael already doesn't have any group. See here, group don't have. So if you want to attach, you can click attach, and you can select the group name, finance, let's say. Then do this, attach the group, then it will attach. So now click on users. You will find here. See here, Michael belongs to finance group. So this is how it's very easy. Here's how you can create a group and users. Okay. Next one is roles, right? Roles is nothing but specific to AWS resources. For example, you want to create a role, right? Just to create a role, create role button is there. AWS resource. Let's say I'm going to create the EC2 permission. Administrator access. Next tag. Review. Here give role name. My EC2 role access. Can give like this. Create role. See, it's created. So where is my EC2? Here is there, right? See here, this is the role. Yeah, so this one you can take and actually you can. Where is it? Yeah, role. Yeah, ARN is there, right? Copy this, and this ARN you can use it in a programmatic way to connect EC2. So this is how you can actually connect programmatically by using the role to access EC2, Lambda, S3, whatever. Just example, I'm creating EC2. Okay. This. Yeah, purpose of creating user group, it's a manual one, right? If you want to manipulate everything in the console manually, you can use group and users. Basically admin will do. But as a developer, I told, right, they will not give you any permission to access the console. So groups and users will not help much to developer. Okay, Prabhakar. So that is how it works. So most of the time, if you are the full stack developer, right, ultimately you need to create some roles to access the resource. Okay. Yep. Okay, it deleted. Let's go to our this one now. VPC. Okay. So the first topic is VPC. So what is VPC? VPC, yesterday we said, right, it's a virtual data center in the cloud, which means in the traditional way, we have a data center which contains a collection of computer interconnected with the wires and everything, and electricity, everything will be there, right? So, but when it comes to cloud, right? So we don't have anything physical kind of data structure, sorry, data center. Rather than AWS will provide to consumer to use virtual data center. Okay, so that is how that VPC comes into the picture. So VPC means virtual private cloud, which is nothing but virtual data center. Okay, this is a simple definition. So what it does basically, this will give you kind of one box. How you will get that one Linux box, right? Like that, it will give you one cloud virtual box. What you will do, you will create lot of your instance and creating the servers, operating system, and running your application within a server. Okay, everything you can do, but it's only dedicated network which is allocated to you or behalf of you, like your company, right? So virtual private network, if somebody else, right, like a third party guys or third party other person try to hack or try to come inside, they cannot, because the firewall will not let open, okay, from their side. So that's what is more secure. And if it, when it comes to that enterprise company, right, as I said, like a bigger company, they will definitely will have at least one VPC to multiple VPC, but at least minimum one VPC they should have. So basically, whatever EC2 server, Lambda, whatever we are running, right, everything we need at least one VPC. So VPC, you always think like an outer layer, data center, right? So within that, we have a server and application and everything, blah, blah things will come. Okay. So you have complete control over your virtual networking environment, including selection of your own IP address. Yes. So this is only for you. You can think like that. You create own IP address range, subnet, and route tables, network gateway, everything. Okay. So we are going to go through that. What is the components of VPC in the next few slides. So VPN, what is it? So VPN is virtual private network connection between your corporate data center to your VPC. Nothing but yesterday we spoke, right, about the banking, especially what they have bank. They have a partial data available in this one, right, in the data center, and partial data they move it in VPC, right? Sorry, 1 second. This. Sorry, yeah. So in banking example, right, so one VPC and one data center. So they, what they will do, they will create one intermediate layer kind of VPN, virtual private network, which will connect between the data center and your VPC. Okay, and you can leverage the AWS cloud and extension of our corporate data center. So this kind of VPN, what it does, it will always make sure if you want to transfer your data from your cloud to VPC, right? Sorry, cloud to your data center. That time this VPN always make sure this will completely secure and private. Okay, so nobody else can try to hack it. So you think like that. So VPN is more in terms of hybrid cloud, I would say. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So hybrid cloud, this will be using. So if it is a full cloud, right, of course they will not go to VPN because anyway they are already in the cloud and VPC. Why do they need one more network to connect inside the cloud? They will not do that. So that doesn't make sense, right? Correct? Okay, that's the concept. Any question? VPC, VPN, any clarification? Any question, guys? No question? Yeah, this is very important concept. Okay, now, okay, VPC, next one. So high level architecture, right? So this one, you see here the outer layer, VPC with the private network. So this is a very high level architecture. Okay, you don't need to worry. So don't be messed with your concept, what you are actually, what you have actually thought, right? So why this much complicated infrastructure? Don't worry. This entire things just to know about what is it, okay? Because you are not really going to work on this. You need to configure everything. So this is most likely AWS managed service and let AWS manage, okay? As a user, as a consumer, we will not actually worry about it, okay? But just to know the concept, how that VPC connected, what VPC contains, those things, okay? Yes, service and resources are same. Yeah. So that some term, right? The technical term, some people say resource, some people say service. So don't be confused. So both are same. Okay. So if you see that outer layer, right? Outer layer region, the red color one, region is there. So once you log into console, you will see that region on the rightmost corner, correct? So you can actually visualize that red color box now. And next layer would be VPC, next box. So first level region, next level VPC. So VPC is the, as I said, like one cloud virtual box. Okay. And next one is there are two subnets, right? Public subnet and private subnet. Okay. So this is nothing but IP range. It refers IT range. So once public subnet and private subnet. So this public subnet has some range, like how do we say that? You have that google.com, right? I can put this way. So www.google.com there. So how it is working behind the scene, the google.com will convert into corresponding IP address, correct? So there will be the registry. It will go and see, hey, this is my request, google.com. Get me IP address for this. Then that will go and search in the dictionary, search that corresponding IP address and give back. Similar like that, we will be configuring this IP address range within that VPC so that any request comes and access this, right? First, this will see that corresponding requests are coming and those requests actually making, right? Means the user who is already making. So it will actually see whether that person is authenticated or not. That is very important because on the current cloud platform, There are a lot of hacking, many things trying to mislead, right? So to avoid that, they will completely make it and make sure it's completely secure and safe. Okay, whatever VPC you are owning. So for that only, these public subnet and private subnets are helping. So we can create a IP range. So you can ask, right, then why we need two subnets, public and private? What does it mean? Public subnet always facing that public one. For example, www.com, when you type, right, so you will see google.com. So it's a front facing. Okay, so whatever application you want to publish to outside the world, right, you can deploy them in the public subnet. Okay, that's the concept. Whatever things which is actually executing backend, right, at the backend. For example, database. Classic example is database or internal APIs or internal service which is not exposed to outside world. Those things you can put it in private subnet. Okay. Basically, when you develop any website development or any application, right, usually the front end, your UI page, React or Angular JS, whatever, right, you are try to make one single page application. So you will put all the application front page application related things, put it in public subnet, and the private subnet would be your database. Okay, so these two would be record on any application. Got it, right? So you have a front layer, middle layer, backend layer. So front layer you can always put it in public subnet, and the backend layer, middle layer, everything you can keep it in private subnet. These two you can make a communication. It will come. And the next one is security group. This is kind of adding more secure, right? Based on the user. So let's say I'm the user A, I'm coming and accessing the request. I'm accessing this VPC box, right? All the way it will see whether my request is coming from authorized person or not by looking at the IP address. So those configuration I will keep it here, security group. Okay. On the outside, you see here route table and NACL. NACL we call network ACL. So this is mostly related to port number. Okay, this is completely related with network layer. Okay, so this is the VPC. So this VPC should have some network port. So for network port, this will check actually all the configuration will be available in network ACL. Okay, so these two at outer layer of public subnet and private subnet. And if you look at that two things, right? See, internet gateway, this is a public facing. So www.google.com means this is internet gateway, try to access, and the request comes from here and come to router table. This is the router table, it will see this IP address range should go to this subnet or this way, private. Okay. So here is very important. So delicate processing actually happen at a router. So this router will go to this, will have this router configuration, and this router configuration, okay, this IP address coming, okay, this should go to public subnet because that is the where I am deploying my front end application, my Angular and React JS. Okay, then this guy will delegate to this corresponding subnet and it will try to execute. And by the executing, right, this will eventually go to database because if you want to get any request, definitely this will eventually go here and get the things done. Okay, so this is how that internet using internet gateway, it will actually route to this corresponding table and go to public subnet and access the application. Virtual private network is it's very rare case they will be using, which means sometimes they want to also retrieve some information without accessing that internet gateway, means public facing. For that, they have some special kind of gateway, which is virtual private gateway. For that, they have to configure at a router table. It's a very rare case they will do this request. Okay, in very secure and if they want to access internally, right, then mostly they will use. But public access and all people access, right, like publicly, www, whatever that IP address range you are giving, those things they can use internet gateway. Okay. SN, yeah, SN means subnet. Yes. Yeah. Actually, public subnet nothing but IP range. It will denote the IP range where you can actually deploy your application inside the subnet. Okay. So when you build a application or when you build any website, right? Like a website, you will have some front end layer, middle layer, and back end layer. Correct. So what you can do here, you take that front end code, front end layer, and put it in public subnet. That public subnet always will be public facing, exposed to that outside world. Okay. Take that other two layers, middle layer and backend layer, put it in private subnet, which is an internal expose. This will not need any outside world access, right? That's what you can give more secure way. If somebody else try to hack your data, basically you are persisting the data. So your data is in private subnet, it's more secure. That is how you can give a lot of security added, right? In for your customer, so that customer will be happy. But at the end of the day, customer is the one trying to access the result and run your business, right? So that is where this security and everything comes into picture. Is it kind of local? Sorry, I didn't get you. Can you elaborate? Is it kind of local means what do you mean? Use of network. Yeah, network vehicle is only with respect to port number. Network we have a port, right? So like that we have a port number, and this will actually have all the configuration related to port number. So this route table will have a configuration and it will actually map with some port number which is available in network vehicle. Okay. Yes, it's kind of private subnet. It's kind of local means it's a database or internal APIs, right? You can consider like that. These are all example where you can actually put them in private subnet. Make sense? Any questions, guys? We have a IP range, right? Let's say you see here 10.0.0.0.0. So it will see that first digit, right? Where it comes from. 10 dot means, let's say I'm using some XYZ company. The company should start with 10 dot only. So whatever request start with the 10 dot, right? This router should know this is a valid request, which is the company making the request. Let's say 11.0.0. This will not allow. We will not configure those things. Then this will see whether this person is authenticated or not. Okay. Okay. If no more question, then I will move to this VPC peering. So what is it actually? Allows you to connect the one VPC with another, like using the private address. So what does it mean? Basically, don't worry. VPC peering means you can connect from one VPC to another VPC. So as I said, right? Sorry, Mohammed, all sessions are 2 hours scheduled only. Okay. There is no 3 hour session. So VPC peering, right? It's a connecting from one VPC to another VPC. You look at this VPC A, B, C, and this many VPC. I want to connect from VPC A to B, then this will one-to-one mapping, right? VPC A to B. Otherwise, VPC A to C, another one-to-many, one-to-one. But there is no transitive VPC possible here. Transitive means when I say directly, if you want to connect like this, VPC wants to connect VPC C, it's not possible. So this is we call transitive VPC peering. So all they need to, if they want to connect VPC B, want to connect VPC C, right? all the way. First, he needs to connect, this person needs to connect VPC A, then VPC C. Okay, so this is how that architecture they designed for VPC peering. And when it comes to enterprise customer, right? Enterprise means bigger customer, bigger company, they have at least multiple VPC. That time they want to make, or they want to establish the connection between the different VPC. In that case, they will give something like that. You see here, this like this box. So this box will not allow transitive peering. So no transitive peering. Okay, remember that. Okay, instance means when you make one request, right? So that time it will create one instance. One instance means one request, or you can say that process, right? In the, how do you call in the lemon term, like a process, the one number of process, right? One count or whatever you can say. So we call instance, one instance. So multiple instance means multiple request comes. Yeah. So next one is EC2. So any question, guys? So VPC, I will go through that this one in the lab exercise. So before that, before jumping to the EC2, right? The key concept, I will just to quickly check. No more question. Okay, cool. Hope you got some on that. Okay. So EC2. So it's a Amazon EC2, right? Amazon EC2. So what does it? Elastic Compute Cloud. EC2 means Elastic Compute Cloud. It's a virtual server. You see here, it's just a virtual server. How we are calling server, right? Tomcat server, Apache server, many servers you have been working in the past. But when it comes to cloud, there is no server as a physical way, right? It's everything like a virtual. VPC, when you say virtual data center, see everything virtual. EC2, when you say not server, virtual server. So everything when it comes to cloud, you need to prefix this term virtual. Okay, don't forget this. No, no, no. See, Elastic Compute Cloud, 2C is there, right? So C2, that's the, yeah, CC, it means C2, yes. So it's a short form of EC2, okay? Elastic Compute Cloud. So it's a virtual server in the cloud. So what it does basically, now as a normal server, you can use this server, right? Once you get this server, you can boot new server instance to minute, allow you to quickly scale capacity both up and down as your computing requirements change. Yes, whatever that requirements it is changing, right? Let's say your application today like 10 MB, tomorrow 100 MB, right? Your application is growing, automatically your capacity, everything will scale because of cloud EC2 only, because completely it's managed dynamically by AWS. So you don't need to worry about what happened to my server, and tomorrow if many requests are coming, right, many instances are hitting, because my customers are growing, I'm getting lot of customers, right? Then your application also will be very busy, right? So that time you don't need to worry at all, automatically that scale will happen, scale and scale up and scale down. So that's the beauty of this EC2 server. VPC is the virtual data center, don't confuse, Prabhakar. Okay, server means EC2, here we call EC2 is the server. When it comes to cloud, we say virtual server. VPC is the virtual data center. Okay, fine. So like a VM, only hosted in AWS instead of your own data center. Yes. So virtual machine, you know, right? Linux box you have. You might have used Linux box. What you have to do? You put that Linux machine everything, and you will be storing in some server. But that server ultimately will be in data center. But here it's not like that. You will not own any data center at all, right? Correct. So you will be hosting your server application, everything on cloud, AWS cloud. So that's what they are saying. So completely you are hosted in AWS instead of your own data center. Okay. So designated to make web scale cloud computing easier for developers. Yes. The capacity you want when you need it, you are in complete control of your own instance. So that's what I told, right? So whenever you want to increase your capacity or if you want to shrink your application, then it will your capacity also will automatically scale down. So that's a complete dynamic way of infrastructure what actually Amazon offering with the help of EC2. Okay. So why is it so cool, right? It's a kind of game changer only because initially they started with EC2 and a lot of companies after they started using EC2, they are really feel amazing and all their application, right? Slowly they are moving away from their on-premises to EC2. Seriously. So that's what this EC2 almost everybody actually liked and started using. So that is one of the reason they say game changer. And pay only for what you use. Yes. So it's completely usage based, right? How much you are going to use, you are going to pay only that much. You are not going to pay anything else, right? So that's the concept. Last one, no wasted capacity. Yes. Select the capacity that you need to right now. Grow and shrink when you need, right? So that's what they are saying. So the capacity, select the capacity that you need right now. So you can actually by using this, you can actually cost, you can save a lot of cost actually. So you can waste, you don't need to waste your money, capacity, everything you can save basically. So pricing model. So if you look at that pricing model, so first one, there are 4 pricing models are there, right? So now we know that what is EC2. Now we would like to use EC2. Before you use EC2, you should know what is the pricing, but this is very important. Depends on your requirement or depends on your use case, you will choose the pricing model among these 4, right? So let's see one by one. First one, on demand. So this allow you to pay fixed rate by hour. Yes. So on demand instance or on demand pricing model, if you choose, right? Let's say I want to use just 4 hours for my EC2 instance or EC2 server. Okay. You pay only for 4 hours. That's all. So for 4 hours, it will be available for you and you can use your application and deploy in EC2 server. That's all. Low cost and short term use only. Yes. Once 4 hours done, that's all. Your instance automatically will terminate it. You cannot use anymore. Okay. Next one, reserved. This will be reserved for you for long-term use. This will be help, especially companies like bigger company, right? Google, Grab, Apple. They will have a reserved instance because they will pay a lot of money, and they will take legacy year of 3-year term, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years like that. So this will be help for reserve. Spot instance, it's a very temporary one, right? It's kind of auction. Auction, you know, right? When somebody bid $5, if another person bid $6, that automatically that instance will go to that $6 person, right? This is how that spot instance works. As long as that anybody else actually bid more than your price, right? This instance will persist. Otherwise, this will go away. So this is completely temporary usage, I would say. For example, you see here for genome sequencing, image rendering, for example, this COVID test and all, sometimes they are seeing, they are taking that RT-PCR test and all, right? So what they do, they take the test and they took some sample, right? They are taking some sample and put it in that image rendering, right? And to test for image rendering everything, like fraction of seconds, they will with some chemical and they want to see how it is reacting, right? Based on that, they will tell what's the result is going to be, right? It's a positive, negative, everything. So for those things and all, completely they are using spot instance because it's a damn cheap compare rest of the instance. Okay. So especially this COVID time, crisis time and all, a lot of companies, right? Like industry companies, they will be offering this spot instance for using their genome sequencing, image rendering, because of lower price and very temporary purpose. Can we say VPC is it comes under this? No. It's a different actually. So IAS you can think like EC2. You can say VPC altogether. It's a virtual data center, right? You cannot actually fit this VPC into this any IAS, PAS, and SAS. Okay, EC2 you can say. Okay, and fourth one is a dedicated host. So this is completely physical EC2 server dedicated for your use case. So this can help you reduce cost by allowing you to use your existing server bound software license. So if you use that existing license anything, right? You want to use that existing one for using your EC2. So for that, it's a kind of extension of your existing software license, right? So for that, you can use this dedicated host, but most likely the cloud-based platform, people will choose that above 3 only. So they will not go for dedicated host. Just to, you can, it's okay if you just to know about this, but actual EC2 usage, these three definitely you should be knowing on what basis you want to use, right? So now you know what is the purpose and what's the requirement you are having. Based on that, go for it and choose. Any questions? Okay. Any questions? Okay, guys. Thank you. So pricing, now we choose. Next one, when you create an instance, right? EC2 instance, uh, you should see some family. You see that different flavors are there. Okay. Before choosing in EC2 instance, see what is the hardware you want to choose and capabilities, application requirement. These are all key factor you need to consider. They are saying it's a kind of generic term, right? I have this business requirement. I want to run my application on my EC2. Okay, this is one of the requirement. For that, what is your business requirement? How your business fit it into this EC2? Those things you need to be think and consider this factor. What hardware you are going to use for my use case? Okay, and what type of different compute memory storage I'm going to use, capabilities basically, right? These are all grouped in instance families. So I'm going to show you how you can choose. Don't worry, just to know about this term. And application requirement. See here, select an instance type based on the requirement of application that you plan to run on your instance. Yes, whenever user making one request, we can say that instance. Okay, one instance. Yes, Prabhakar. Yeah. So you see here family, right? You see here we saw, right, capabilities. How we can group into instance families based on this selection. So when we launch EC2 instance or when we try to create EC2 instance, this will actually ask you to choose which family you want. For example, I'm the free user, right? I'm the free user. I'm just coming here and trying to explore EC2 instance. That's your requirement, right? Simple. As a beginner, this is what your expectation, right? All you need to do, you just to come to T3. You see here T3. This is the family you need to choose because this is the free tier AWS offering. Don't forget, because if you choose other family, right, this will lead to charge. You need to pay some cost. For free user beginners, just come to T3 family and lower cost and general purpose. You see here. Basically, what we can see use case also I'm putting here and what purpose we can this family can use. This will help you to deploy your web server or small DBs, these things, right? Let's say in real-time world, right? Industries, let's say company, you work for some company, that company having a teams and projects you are developing, you are one of the developer, right? In that case, they might choose some of the family, depends on the use case. Okay, so there are lot of use cases are available here. You read here, right? One by one. Few example I'm just going through. If some company developing machine learning, right? That time you see here machine learning, Bitcoin mining. That time they need high memory, high capacity they need. For that they have to choose P3. So that this will offer you to support graphics and general purpose GPU. So uh, this will have machine learning related things and this will require lot of computation, more memory power, right? And more capacity also. So this contains, let's say you are the game developing developer for gaming, right? For gaming, if you go here, right? See, I have an example here. Apache data warehouse, map, 3D, yes, yeah, 3D application streaming here, yeah, graphics intense here is there, right? G3, you can choose G3. So whoever very passionate about developing the gaming and all, right? And they want to deploy their gaming application in the EC2 server. That is the requirement. On that, they have to choose this G3 family. See, everything ready-made available. All you need to do, you should be knowing the use case and what's the family. That's all. Everything ready-made available. Right? See, data warehouse, and some people are very good in big data, like analytical and all, right? They will be dealing with a lot of data, huge amount of data will be there. They want to analysis, do some analysis and do some processing and all. For that high speed storage they need. So they can go for i3 family. So there are different use cases are there. You can actually see here and you can choose the family among these. Okay. EBS, yes. So if you look at this one, right? EBS nothing but Elastic Block Store. Uh, I will come to you before I'm running to this. Let's go to lab now, lab exercise. I will show you. See, there are two ways always you can do. Either you can come to services under compute EC2 is that right? Either you can click this, or if you know the name, right, directly you can type EC2. Either you can do, either you can choose. Okay. Anyway, which way you want to go for. Yep. See here, EC2 dashboard showing. So instance, I don't have any instance currently running on my VPC. So instance running, nothing, right? So you see here launch instance. Just to click on here, launch instance, and you choose here main thing free tier only. So that don't forget to click because you always making sure free tier only you are going to choose. Okay, free tier. Choose here Amazon Linux family. Select. This is the Amazon image. So kind of operating system, right? There are a lot of operating systems are available. Windows, see Ubuntu, or Linux, Red Hat. See, SUSE. So whichever operating system you want to choose, right? On to create a EC2, you can create. I choose the Linux 2, and there are 2-bit, 64-bit, 86, and I am so by default 86. Yeah, so this is the one I told the family. You see here, T2 micro free eligible. So that's the one. If you come back to our things, our family, you see here, family T2, T3, everything same. So you can choose. There are a lot of families, right? T3. macro F4, C4, C5. So based on that use case, actually just you can choose. So I choose this E2 micro. Next one you see here, it is automatically asking which VPC, right? So basically first VPC, inside VPC server. So I let Amazon only choose the default VPC. Okay, we don't need to do anything. Under this, see here subnet. There are many subnets are available. I will choose the default subnet which is available and let it be default one. You don't need to do anything. Just to know the concept, you choose already VPC will be there, subnet will be there. You will just to let it go. So you can just do this kind of preview. You can see it here. Launch. That's all. Very easy. You can launch very easy. So here this is very important. To access your EC2, right? You need a credential. So this key pair nothing but your login credential. It will ask you to create a new pair. So I will create a new pair. My what is that? Batch. What is the batch number? B2 to batch. Right? So okay. Just I put B2. Download. You just click download. Okay. Downloads. Okay. So that's all. Now I'm going to launch instance. So that's all. View instance. You see here, instance is running. Your EC2 server is running. Here you can change. Here, EC2. Instance. So this is running. You see here, EC2 is running. Correct. Now we can access. So access. There are many ways are there. Instant. If you want to connect, right, you can go here and connect. See, directly you can connect from the console. Okay. So this is a one way. Exit. This is a one way, right? So instance is running. Another way is just to I go to this instance, right? I go to this instance. Let me go to this instance. This my terminal, right? I'm using Mac, so I'm going to show you this how to access. CD downloads. It, okay, now I downloaded this one, right? This one. So now all you need to do, I copy this command. I have this. So copy this. Just I paste it here. So what I need to do, this is my, this I have to give my credential, right? Here I downloaded locally. Just to copy, put it here. That's all. And here, this is nothing but a username @ password. Okay. So EC2 user is the standard one because EC2 server is the username. EC2 user, and at the rate, right? After that, you just click on here. How you can find public address is there, right? This is the address you can copy, newly created, right? We just created from here. The way you can do it. Say yes. Okay. See here, permission denied. It is saying, which means this file doesn't have permission to use. So we need to give permission to this file. So chmod is there 400. Yeah. So here chmod 400 I'm giving my batch. This one I'm giving permission now. Now I'm again executing the same command. Yes, see here successfully login. Sudo su. See, this is first EC2 server you have. Sorry, pwd. Yeah, here you can update. Just see here, this is our root directory. Just I'm updating all the supporting files by default, hardware related, everything will be there. So now you are good to go, and you can deploy your application in this EC2 server on the cloud platform. Yeah, that's all complete, everything, right? So this is how very easy. So you can create an instance and copy this command. This one, right? This command. SSH. This is for Mac I am telling. Windows I will tell you now. SSH -I means interactive. After that, you will keep your file name. Here username and password. Password nothing but your public IP address you can give. This one. Whatever instance it's running, right? So this is Mac, right? But I see most of you Windows also you use, correct? So I would like to choose. Yes, correct. Yeah. So guys, that's what, right? If you are using your application in Heroku Netlify, then if you don't find any discomfort, anything, right? You can deploy your application, and how I'm creating this instance. You can put your all your application inside here, so that it's very easy and easy to run, and it's more scalable, right? You don't need to do anything. Now you know how to create a EC2 instance and access. For Windows user, I'm telling you, where just I documented this. I will share these entire steps also along with the slides when I'm sending email to you guys. Okay. So Windows user, just because I'm not using the Windows, right? So I'm just putting the screenshot. You can follow that. So you can deploy Putty. Anybody using Putty before? If you don't use, just to go to Google and download. There are two software you need to download. One is Putty key generator. Another one is Putty client. See Putty client. Okay, this is Putty generator. Just to follow this, once you have this software installed, right? Go there and upload your key value. So what you have, right, locally, like that you also should have. You can upload this over here. Then once you click OK, right, then you will actually store them. See, you see here, load. After that, you will actually store them like PPK file. Once you upload, you will store them like a PPK file, and store this PPK file. You put some name, but the suffix should be .ppk. Don't forget. Okay. Once you store this PPK file and local, open that Putty, which is another software, right? Open that and go to this auth, right? As per the screenshot. And here you see here browse button. So after browse, you choose that PPK file. Okay. Once you choose that PPK file by using this browser, see, once select the PPK file which stored in local folder by click browser button like above. Next one would be host name you have to give. Here host name should be your public IP address. So how I am giving in the Mac, right? Public IP like that. For host name here you have to copy this and here here you can give and click on load. So once you load, that IP address will come and save on your local. Okay, then click on open. See, you should able to see now. Next screen, on Windows machine, you should able to see your Linux machine. Here you can do your application, right? Whatever Heroku and Netlify you are deploying, take all the code compressed like a zip file, put it over here. That's all. Okay, so this is the steps for Windows user. Mac user, what I shown, you can just to follow them. Macs and Linux both are same. Only Windows it's a bit different. So I have step by step I have documented. I will share. Any questions, guys? Any questions so far? EC2. Okay, each instance new app to deploy. No. Actually, if you want to, okay, if you go to this instance, right, Prabhakar, you have a multiple app is there. You want to create all app in that EC2, you can do it, but you have to create a Docker container. That's I will show you in that another session. Each container you create and put your application in that container. Take that container and run on EC2 server. That's all. It's a very easy. Container is nothing but one small box, right? Like the Docker image. You create the Docker image and put it in container. Take that container, run inside EC2 server. You are good to go. So you don't need to create each instance for each application. That will be cost, right? That will be more expensive way to create. Got it? Any questions, guys? This is very important for your development, right? You might use this. But one more I'm going to show you that is a lot more interesting, how you can easily deploy even more easily with the help of Lambda. But EC2 also equally important, okay? Okay, no more question, then let's move on. Yeah, EBC, yeah, EBS, Elastic Block Store. Okay, this is a concept, nothing but a file disk, like a hard disk, right? So when you have a computer and CPU and you have a hard disk, so here also you need to mount your volume, right? When you say volume means, let's say 100 GB data you have, but you want to store them. So there will be some EBS block allocated for you, okay, on your EC2 server. So that is called EBS. So it's a virtual hard disk, you can say. See here, what is the definition? Store volume that you can attach to your EC2 instance. Use them whenever you want, and it's same like a hard disk only, okay? And create a file system on that, and database, operating system, store data, install application. So everything it's already available, ready-made, so you don't need to worry about it. And it's highly available and scalable. Yes. So this EBS, if you look at this diagram, right? So Amazon Linux and your app and your data. So everything you can mount all the data into this EBS, and you let your EC2 server attach with those EBS volumes. Sorry, any question? Okay, so what is the two types of EBS, right? So SSD and magnetic. So SSD is nothing but balanced price and performance for wide variety of workloads. So general purpose is basically they use SSD, and provision IOPS, it's a high performance, right? Let's say you are having that application which requires lot of memory and capacity. So in that case, they use provision IOPS. So this will give high throughput. Okay, high amount of throughput this will give. So you need to choose on based on the your usage base. Okay, magnetic nothing but throughput optimized HDD. It's a lower cost HDD volume, and for this mainly for frequent access. Okay, and throughput intensive very workload is very high compared to SSD. Cold HDD is a lower cost HDD. So basically this magnetic, right, whatever here it's saying, it's kind of earlier they used basically when AWS introduced, right, they started with magnetic, but after that they didn't use much. So nowadays they most of the consumers, right, most of the users using this SSD. So you can just to remember these two. SSD means general purpose SSD, provision IOPS SSD. Okay, very simple operation, simple application. If you want to store volume, you can use simple general purpose. If you want dealing with the complex kind of infrastructure, right, then choose provision IOPS. Okay. So instant store and EBS, what is the difference? So there is one more concept, instant store. So what does it mean? Instance, this also kind of instance type comes with the form of directly attached block device storage known as the instant store. The instant store is ideal for temporary storage because the data stored in instant store volume is not resistant to instant stop. Termination hardware failure. So what they are saying basically, EBS also you can attach to EC2. Why? There is one more choice they are giving, instant store, where you can also store your volume and attach to EC2 instance. But there is two main difference. Let's say if anything happened to your EC2 instance, let's say due to some disaster recovery, your EC2 completely terminated or crashed. So what happened to your data? Will all your data lost? What happened? Right? In that case, if you are attached all your data in EBS, right, still it will be safe because it will be completely isolated. Even though your EC2 instance is terminated, but data will be there. It's kind of your CPU is gone, right? But still you can take your hard disk and can put it in another CPU and take your data. Similar way, EBS. But instant store, you cannot do it. It's kind of completely coupled with EC2 instance. So whatever that EC2 is running, right, that time only your instance also will be running. If it's terminated due to some reason, all your data will be gone. Whatever data you are actually keeping inside that instance store. Okay, so that's the main advantage. So another one, if you want to retain longer, right, if you want to retain your data for longer, or if you want to encrypt the data, use EBS, Elastic Block Store. And EBS volume store preserve the data to the instant stop and termination can be easily backed up. Yes, for backed up by using the snapshot they can do, and how much ever backup you want to do, and if you want to secure your data, right, 10 backups or 20 copies, how much ever you want you can take by using this snapshot EBS. Sorry, EBS inbuilt with the no, EBS it's optional. If you want, you can actually attach them, right? Otherwise, you can use that is instance type also. You can attach. So there are two options AWS giving. Either you can use instance type or EBS. But EC instance type is less cost comparatively EBS because EBS is kind of complete structure based, right? You have a dedicated storage and you can store your data there, and you can actually secure your data in safely manner, even though your EC2 instance getting deleted or corrupted, anything, right? Sandeep, can we store EBS in one region attached that to? No, no. Whatever that EBS you are using, attaching that region, right? You cannot move to another region. Should be same region. It's a good question actually. It should be in the single region. Okay. Yep. So this is the EC2 lab I was showing. Touch lab. So next one is Lambda concept. Yeah, S3 I will come later. Don't worry. Don't be hurry. I will come to that later. What's the exact purpose? Then I will know. Okay. Guys, EC2, EBS, any questions? Okay, good. So come back to Lambda. This is very super easy for deployment. It's a serverless architecture, serverless compute. Run your code in AWS without provisioning any servers. So EC2, what we saw, you have to launch your EC2 instance. You have to create, you have to choose EBS volume. You have to choose the instance family. What is the VPC? Everything, right? Here, nothing is there. Look at the diagram. Just plug and play. Just plug and play. That's all. You come with the code, whatever Node.js developer or React.js developer, come with the code and run your code on the Lambda. That's all. You will get the output. How easy it is, right? So that's what they are saying. It's completely game changer of any of the industry across the world since they are using Lambda. Okay. So Lambda take care of everything required to run your code, runtime environment, capacity, scale in, scale up, scale down, load balancing, everything will take care. You don't need to worry at all. Basically, it supports, you see here, almost all languages actually it supports. So you guys must be one among them, right? Java, Go, PowerShell, Node.js, C#, Python, Ruby. So upload your code to Lambda and you are good to go. That's all. So auto scaling high availability, as I told, it's already taken care. No, Lambda doesn't have any full form. Lambda is just a name. It's one of the AWS key resource where you can deploy your application. Yeah, they started with the EC2, right? Let's say Lambda has some limitation, Prabhakar. So, okay, there are some use case you cannot really use Lambda. I will tell you. In that case, definitely you need to rely on EC2. Okay, so everything completely depends on the use case. You cannot simply go ahead and use, but how much percentage we are using, right? That's the matter. So most of the percentage we are actually able to achieve our application running with Lambda only. So very few cases we have to go for EC2. That's what you cannot completely get rid of EC2. Still you need EC2 and certain cases. Okay, basic architecture, right? So you see here Lambda architecture. This is a user. Traditional architecture you see here. Request come to this middle layer and database come back. Similar like that. This will be API gateway we call it's a front end layer and it will go to that serverless. Serverless is a Lambda. This will call internally database, get back the result and go to user with the response. So what is it? So event driven architecture, trigger by event trigger. So these are all very key advantage. For example, you upload some file in S3. Whenever I want to upload that file, right? The Lambda will automatically trigger your S3 and take that file, process them. Okay. And whatever business logic you are doing, right? Doing everything within your Lambda and get the response back. So that is called trigger by event. Event driven is nothing but automatically triggered by other services called directly from any web or mobile app. Yes. Okay. So everything you can actually configure within the Lambda and you can actually trigger by using the event or mobile app or whatever service. And also request, right? Like this is the request basically. User make a request, comes here, delegate to Lambda and process them, connect to database, whatever persist they want to persist the data, get the result back, go to client back. Okay. So that is called trigger by user request. So these are main advantage here. Yes, based on the requirement of project, we need to select, okay, which one we need to choose. But what I'm saying, 60 to 70% of use cases across what industry having, right, requirement. I like to share this to you guys. 60 to 70% assume that you can achieve everything, do it with Lambda. Still 30% still you have to rely on EC2 server and ECS Docker container, and you have to run your application. Okay, there are two ways are there. So now you know, right, how much percentage. So the more percentage, 60 to 70 means it's a uh, majority of use cases already supporting by Lambda. Yeah, key point to remember. So number of requests, right? The duration amount of memory used by Lambda function, and the Lambda automatically scale, and one event equal to one function. Yes. When you make one request, it's nothing but one Lambda function will get called. Okay. 10 request goes means 10 hit will happen and 10 function will call corresponding. There is no sharing, there is no cookie, nothing is there here. Each call will consider as one request. Always remember, when I say one request means it will hit one request Lambda function. 1000 call means 1000 Lambda function will get triggered. Okay. So it's an independent call. Everything will go like independent call. This will not be shared any of the request among them. And you have multiple version of, yeah, you have a code which you need to keep on adding and updating, right? You don't need to overwrite the code. You can actually maintain the version. Let's say you want to roll back the code and go to previous version, easily it can go using your Lambda. And you are responsible for your code. You are only responsible for code. I would say this one. Rest everything responsible with AWS. So hardware, operating system, security patching, antivirus, everything will be taken care by Amazon AWS. So with respect to request, right? First 1 million per month are free, right? After 1 million requests are completed per month, they are charging 0.20. See how cheap they are giving. That's what another reason a lot of people are why they are going to Lambda. Damn cheap actually AWS giving offering. Especially you guys, right? Like a beginner, you can start deploy your application and start writing your code directly on the Lambda and executing. So you will actually see super easy. And duration, yeah, 1 millisecond, and per GB, right? You will see here this much function 512 MB I run on 100 milliseconds. So these are all actually how fast it runs. Okay, you can see this per GB seconds. Okay, let's create one Lambda, quick Lambda, and I will show you. This EC2 I will delete. First, I need to stop instance for deleting. So in meantime, I'll go here. Lambda. There you see here, just to I say Lambda, Lambda, Lambda you can say, otherwise services below EC2 you see here, Lambda is there. Either you can choose, okay, whichever way you want, and create a function here. So I have one small function here already. Tech export lambda. Okay, once you create a function, it will ask you to use. So this is a function name. Basically, function name means your lambda name. Okay, my first. So something my first lambda, right? And you see here all the languages support I was showing, right? So here Node.js I'm using. So Node.js just to create a function. That's all. You don't need to do anything. Yes, correct. Yeah. Yeah. You see here. Okay. So this is a sample code. What I'm doing, I have a simple function, right? I have a simple function. See export.handler. So this is very important. Whenever you creating lambda function, you should this lambda will see where is this handler code. So from there it will able to recognize, okay, here is my actually starting place from where I can execute my code. Like that lambda will recognize. So always you should remember to have this handler keyword. But depends on the language, this syntax will differ, but you should have this handler in any of in all the languages, whatever you are choose, right? So this function, what I'm doing, I'm using this URL and response and callback and response. So if this URL is a valid URL, then I will say this one. Otherwise, right, I will say error. That's all. So what I am going to do, I'm going to test. So before test, I have to deploy. See, this is how you can deploy. Just click on this button. So your application is deployed on Lambda now. Now you can test. So this is my request around. Just you can see this. Create. Okay. And test it. See here, my Lambda is running. How cool it is. This is my first Node.js code using Lambda. This is printing, right? Let's say you are making some Amazon.com. Just I'm going to add something and I'm going to deploy. Let's see. Deployed. Test it again. You see here error because it's not a valid one. So I'm throwing back. See, I'm throwing back invoke error, error type error, error message. So this is the error message I'm getting. See, it's not a valid URL. That's all. Very few seconds you can actually able to deploy. Now go back and do Amazon.com. Yeah, see here 200. Okay. Yes, yes, you can deploy whole files. So for example, right, you see here, I have many microservices. I will go through that industry-based real-time examples so that you can easily prefer for interview or whatever things, right? You see here, each service I have here, I have one Lambda. Whatever service you see here, accounts API, one Lambda. This having entire folder, right? Here, what it does actually, index.js. This is main.js, right? See here, I am giving handler. So this is the main file, it will start. So I will actually take this entire file, come here and I will upload. See here, upload from zip file. That's all. You can upload it and execute. Your application is good to run, execute. How cool it is, right? This is the microservice, right? So this is the backend I am actually showing. This is the backend. What you are seeing right here, this is the backend. If you want to deploy your front-end code, then you can access. You can access creating the API gateway and the access. I will show you. This is the Lambda is the backend. See here, if you connect this one, you see here, Lambda is the backend one. Okay. But when it comes to user interface, first layer API gateway. It's a URL. When you type a URL, that will be front end. You are on the browser. Then that URL will go to Lambda and it will connect. Now I'm directly showing you in the Lambda itself. It's a backend. You got it? If you create a API gateway for that, that API will connect to Lambda and it will get the response. That will be another session. I will show you. Okay. Then you will know that end-to-end flow. So this is for Lambda, directly writing the Lambda and how you can execute the code. Make sense? Any questions, guys? Lambda. Super easy. Anybody can learn at any time. Okay, cool. So if I ask you to write on Lambda, you can write at any time, right? Yeah, see here, this one, I stop, right? So once instance stop, guys, and one more thing, whenever you use this EC2 instance or this one, right? Better by uh, just for a safer side, after use, just to make sure you delete it. That's better. Always you have you can have that habit, right? So that it's easy. So it's terminated, I think. Yeah. So it will take some time to disappear from here. So let me go to that next topic. If no more question, clear. So next one is S3, right? Oh, this one is, yeah, S3 maybe. What's the time? 43. Okay. I think S3, yeah. Next topic we will show, I will show you that S3 and CloudFormation, because this will be too much for you. Today we have covered two important topic, and I'll show you tomorrow that lab exercise S3 how you can use on CloudFormation. So any questions so far? Yeah, guys, you can speak up. Actually, don't worry, don't be shy. So you can speak up. We can. It should be like interactive session, right? So that you can also learn many things. Don't worry. You can ask anything, generic things, so that we can have a discussion around it. So first question, Lawrence. Okay, are there any negatives of using AWS? See, the current industry market, as far as I know, right? Because since I'm doing the solution architect for AWS for many years. Many industries are coming from other cloud to AWS. Okay, basically moving from other cloud to AWS because of two reasons. One reason is a lot of cost saving. Okay, another one is these guys are more innovative way, right? So every 2 months once these guys are keep on publishing new things, new resources keep coming. So up to date these guys are keeping their technology, right? So that is the main thing I would see. And a lot of consumers and innovators, right, they would prefer to use AWS rather than go for Microsoft and other this one. What is that? Google Cloud. Okay, so negative wise, okay, one thing I would say, let's say 100% today you are learning and trying to use your all development in AWS. Okay, assume that, Lawrence. After, we never know, right? Similar kind of AWS, maybe after 10 years, 5 years, some other cloud provider will come. Then what will happen? Okay, in that case, don't stick with only AWS kind of things. Okay, but you should be knowing AWS more. At the same time, do it like a cloud, like a horizontal way. Don't go with a vertical way, horizontal way. Okay, horizontal way means you should be knowing like all cloud related technologies, not only AWS. But I would highly encourage to give more importance to AWS. Okay, so in that way I would say negative things, if you are completely 100% rely on AWS and not learning other things, then that would sometimes definitely become a negative. Okay, otherwise everything should be okay only. What is difference between DevOps and cloud computing? So DevOps is the admin role, right? Basically, so whatever the admins are doing on the AWS console and running them and maintaining the infrastructure, everything done by DevOps admins. But cloud computing, it's kind of concept. Okay, let's say AWS is one of the cloud, Amazon Azure, GCP. These are all cloud computing only. So cloud architect we call, right? Cloud architect is not stick with one of the cloud. They will be knowing across all the cloud platform. Okay, so you should be knowing cloud computing is nothing but not only AWS. There are a lot of clouds are available in the market. So DevOps, when it comes to DevOps, this will stick with the particular cloud only. For example, AWS means they call AWS DevOps admins. Amazon Azure means Amazon Azure DevOps admins. Like that, the role will go. Okay. So next one, feedback form. Yes, sure. Yeah. Okay. This one, feedback form. What happens to the data we remove or delete from the AWS? How can we make sure the data can be never be? Okay, when you say data, right, you have a backup and all you have, and there are a lot of resources are there. You can put it in S3, Glacier. Tomorrow I am going to show you. Those things definitely will be available, even though your instance, your application is crashing, anything, your data will be safe. So always prefer one backup of data, you put it in S3 or Glacier, and you can all the time can recoverable. Sorry, is there any certification for AWS which will benefit? Yeah, there are a lot of certification, right? So once you try to explore them, you can go for that developer certificate, which is the basic development, and cloud partitioner certificate. First one, cloud partitioner, which is very basic and fundamental about cloud computing. Okay, Manas. So cloud partitioner, better you should do. After that, go for specific things. If you want to go AWS, then go to developer certificate on AWS, on solution architect on AWS. Like that, you can go slowly. What happens to, yes, yeah, many full stack job profile requires AWS requirement. Yes. For basic things, beginners, right? This is very very much useful and very much enough, I would say. But if you are effectively using whatever I'm sharing and lab exercise, everything, right, this should be sufficient. When it comes to the developer, sorry, when it comes to fresher and beginner level, okay, you don't need to worry about. Data warehouse altogether, it's a big data concept, right? AWS is also handling that data warehouse. For development, full stack developer, data warehouse definitely will not much needed, because developer will focus on the development. Data warehouse, it's completely getting the data, analyzing the data, and processing them. It's all together, it's a different data related role. Okay, we call data warehouse related under data scientist. I don't know whether you know the data scientist and all. So what they will do, what their job basically, they will do execute all the data from the different data warehouse and analyzing them and reporting and generating and using processing them. Okay, but when it comes to full stack developer, you will completely focus on your web development or microservice development and apply them. Jenkins, it's used to okay. Jenkins is mainly used for CI/CD, right? Continuous integration and continuous deployment. Let's say you have a code, you want to deploy your code automatically, right? Whenever you upgrade or update the code, or you have a features, complete frequent requirements are coming. So how do you do? Every time you go and do manually, this will not happen like that. When it comes to real time, completely you need to do automate. So this Jenkins will help you to automate that process basically with the help of CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous deployment. Okay, so we will go through that continuous integration deployment because when it comes to full stack development, right, you must be knowing that concept. So I will show you that. I have that real-time examples and don't worry guys, I'm going to show you that last session, I think most likely I'm going to share with you all real-time examples, how you can deploy and how you can use them. So you can actually, yeah, you will come to know. What else? Yes, similar MongoDB, we have a DynamoDB, Lawrence. We'll be going through that. It's a NoSQL database, which AWS is offering. It's a key value pair it is allowing. So whatever document and whatever you are storing, right, you want to persist, you can use DynamoDB. So NoSQL DB in AWS. So I would highly encourage and compare also MongoDB with DynamoDB. Okay, because I don't know, you guys are using MongoDB. Since you are exploring AWS, you can easily migrate also from MongoDB to DynamoDB. It's very easy to use. You can have a combo like that, right? Lambda, DynamoDB, and API Gateway. These are all one package. Complete AWS development. Is something like that, right? So just to high level API Gateway request and your Lambda for processing. That Lambda will use the DynamoDB for persistence. Simple, right? Yes. If you know everything in single place, you are good, and you also market yourself. I can do everything in the AWS only. AWS development, it's a market, right? In the current market, it will be highly high peak, all time wanted kind of job. Any more questions, guys? Ask anything related to your uh, development practice or any industry standard. I would love to share, yeah, as much I can. Any questions? What are the features you personally use the most in AWS? No, see, I would actually, what I can see, right? What I can tell Lawrence, there is no personal things and all. So I would go with a use case only, okay? Because I used to get the requirement from business. I would talk to business stakeholders who is actually giving the requirements to me. Based on that requirement, I will see this resource or this technology what fits to this requirement. Then I will choose the design architecture accordingly. Then go for it. Because blindly we cannot choose like, hey, this is a requirement, straight away go and use them. No, that will not happen like that. Okay, first analysis your requirement, and you know already very well about your AWS architecture and how resource being used, and you will just try to connect your requirement this side, your AWS infrastructure and resources this side, just to connect and see how feasible it is, and you can actually decide accordingly. Okay, so you got to choose based on the requirement or use case. Yeah, so it comes to based on the experience and uh, the amount you work and the amount you practice, right, with the AWS resources and development, you will automatically get to know that. You don't need to worry. So I will be sharing few real-time examples for this use case. What you need to choose for this use case, what you need to choose. I have a couple of use cases. Okay, real-time examples, what industry is using, so that time you will actually knowing, will be knowing. Don't worry. Lambda stores Node.js part, DynamoDB stores database part, then React part will be stored in. No, Lambda can store both actually. Lambda not only store Node.js, right? Lambda you can put it in all, put all your code. In the inside you are actually separating Node.js, DynamoDB and all. Lambda is kind of server only, serverless, where you can run entire your code. Within your code, you can actually categorize, subcategorize. This is my React, this is my front end, this is my back end, this is my middle layer. Okay, for CI/CD, sorry, for CI/CD, what are we going to use in AWS, sir? Yeah, CI/CD, I'm going to, that's what I told you, right, Sri? Jenkins is very much useful. All industries using, especially I can highlight a few of the big companies, Uber, Facebook, and all using Jenkins. So I would like to share the same thing. This is very early, Mohammed, actually. First to listen and yeah, first to get to know all the resource, everything. Then let's talk about the interview questions. Okay. Yeah, don't worry. At the end of the session, right, we will have some any interview questions which yeah, they can expect from the candidate, so we can actually have a discussion. Now if I tell, right, you may not know that because still we are in the middle of the session, right, it will not be suitable. Okay, all right. Any more questions? Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. Yeah, I hope actually it's very effective, guys. So I would really want you guys to start using something, and please feel free to ask me, okay, whenever you have any doubt, anything. So end of the day, something should be useful for you. Okay, thank you all. See you tomorrow session. Thank you. Yeah.